We'll begin in Rome. It is July. It's hot. Trash piles up. It smells. It is 100 BCE. You had to be rich to get out of the stench. If you were rich, you would have a house with a generous entranceway, so you would be well away from the street, sitting in an interior garden. You would probably have a bit of incense burning. That improves the atmosphere. Nice smells are associated with the gods, and rich people are closer to the gods than others. If you were rich, you could also get out of town when things turned nasty. And that is what the aristocratic father of the boy were interested in, a boy who would be born on July 12th, 100 BCE, had done. Perhaps he went to the area of modern San Marino, ancient Bovili, the family seat, or possibly somewhere around the Bay of Naples. This was a preferred refuge for members of Rome's governing class, the people whose family members had held public office and were thus qualified to be members of the Senate, the governing council of the state. Gaius Julius Caesar, for this is the aristocratic gentleman we are talking about, would likely have been in the house, but not the room when his wife, Aurelia, gave birth. Childbirth was dangerous and difficult. There was no anesthesia, and it was women's business. All the help Aurelia would get would come from a midwife and the midwife's 3 assistants, and the divine assistants channeled through the amulets that she, like other Roman women, would have worn to ensure that protection. To give birth, she most likely sat on her midwife's crescent-shaped stool. The story that this child was delivered by cesarean section, which occurs in some ancient biographies, is a myth to explain the family name. The absurdity of the story is betrayed by the fact that the family name was centuries old when the young Gaius Caesar was born. The year in which Caesar was born would have taken its name from the chief magistrates of the year, the 2 consuls, Gaius Marius and Lucius Valerius Flaccus. Gaius Marius was the most famous man alive, and he was married to Caesar's Aunt Julia. He owed his fame to his ability as a general. Just 1 year before Caesar's birth, the army he commanded had destroyed the second of 2 large migratory groups that had once threatened to invade Italy. His army had annihilated the other one in the previous year. Although Marius would be important to the young Caesar, none of our sources give us details of meetings Caesar had with the great man, and any that he might have had would more likely have been for a hug and a war story than for any serious business. Marius was not a young man, and he would die when Caesar was 13. Marius's story, which we'll be looking at in more detail in our next chapter, was remarkable not just because he was a brilliant soldier, but because he rose to the pinnacle of Roman political society without having any ancestors who had held public office at Rome. He was from a wealthy family in the central Italian town of Arpinum, modern Arpino, where he is remembered today with a statue that stares down on the town square. Descent from a long line of office holders was typically a critical factor in a political career. The Roman state had once restricted office holding to members of very aristocratic families, known as patricians, and excluded all others, the plebeians, from those opportunities.